Hey, my name is Nathan Ivey. I'm the president and founder of Seed to Oaks. Welcome to our next Seed to Oaks podcast. And with us here today is Kathy Boyer. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, Kathy, you are in the financial arena. You are a very successful businesswoman. You've done very well, and we thought that it would be a great opportunity. You're also on the board of directors at Seed to Oaks, so you're certainly a strong advocate for the vision and work that we're doing here at Seed to Oaks. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do? And then why maybe you believe in the mission of Seed Oaks.
Okay. Well, last week I celebrated my 40th anniversary at my company, Stiefel Nicholas, which is a stock brokerage firm based in St. Louis. And really what I do is just meet with clients and help them meet their financial goals. Try to steer them, if I can, toward faith-based things. But I help them send their kids to college, plan for their retirement, just invest funds that they might have to invest. So I love working with people. I have a passion for that. And I think really how I got involved with Seed to Oaks was, Nathan, you came and spoke to our community group probably
right.
3 years ago, and I was just really taken with the vision of what you're doing. And I just see so many people in my church that have gifts that they're not using, and I think that there's such a need for healthcare clinics, for summer learning academies, for all the things that you all are doing. Job one, placing people in jobs. So I see people that I work with that that have talents that they're not using. So
Let's talk a little bit more about that, because that's one of the things that I've seen. I have a business background. I've been a church pastor. I've seen kind of both sides of the different perspectives and the types of work. And I see a lot of professionals sitting inside the pews who are kind of emotionally or imaginatively gridlocked on I have yet to meet a business professional that doesn't want to leverage their influence, doesn't want to use the gifts to advance the kingdom. But I find that oftentimes there's the lack of imagination, maybe on how do I do that and how do I do that in the church? Can you speak to
exactly
maybe some of that gridlock?
Right. For example, I'm in a Sunday school class with probably 60 people. A lot of them are retired. They're former teachers, nurses, plant managers, educators, just a variety of different positions that they've held. And I think they want to serve, they want to give back, they want to use their talents, but they don't really want to work in the nursery. There's always a need for that. So I think if, our church had a health clinic that we were setting up, that people would be flocking to help with that. Or a retired teacher would want to work and volunteer with a summer academy or the assessment program. I just think there's a lot of talents out there, and people want to serve, but they don't know how to do it.
Right.
And there's not really a place in a lot of churches. I don't think there's a place to do that. So
I think I'm in agreement with you. One of the reasons why we started Seed to Oaks is because when I was just a regular everyday member, I couldn't find my place of service in the church. I'm not really wired to lead a community group. I'm not a worship leader. I ran some hospitality on Sunday morning, but I thought I could do more than serve coffee and brew coffee. It's very important. But what about all the entrepreneurial skills that I have? Maybe some of how do I really put that to work? And ironically and interestingly enough, when people ask me to maybe pioneer or pilot the Mercy Ministry, I didn't even imagine that my skill is actually connected to the community around where the church was gathering. And boy, was I wrong, though.
Exactly, yes.
The networking experience that I had, the business acumen, it really was exactly what is needed to really advance the church's efforts in caring for the vulnerable in our neighborhoods. And I learned that a lot of churches, and maybe you could speak to this a little bit, a lot of churches approach their understanding of the neighborhood kind of from a top-down approach. They make a lot of assumptions on what the community needs, rather than going to the neighborhood and asking what the neighborhood needs, or maybe how does the neighborhood imagine a caring church making a difference.
I think that's exactly right. I think they assume a lot of things that are probably wrong, and that's why I think your neighborhood assessment program is so wonderful, because you actually go talk to the people and say, what do you need, and try to meet those needs. And I think there's hundreds of churches that have willing people that would go out and serve in their neighborhood and help people in their neighborhood where they don't have to drive clear across town, because there's needs right in their neighborhood. So I think I think your program is great. I mean, I'm a huge fan.
Yes, I'm so grateful.
I felt very honored to be on the board of Seed to Oaks. I truly do. So.
Why do you think it's imperative that professionals sitting under the preaching of God's word in churches leverage their professional expertise? Why do you think, I know we talked already a little bit about why that's sometimes difficult for professionals, but why do you think it's imperative to integrate that faith and vocation? And we're in the Kingdom Advisors, which is a group of professionals who are trying to integrate their faith and vocation. Why
I mean, I just think we all have spiritual gifts, and I think God wants us to use those gifts. One of mine is encouragement, and I feel like that's something that I can do that just comes naturally to me because that's one of my gifts. But I think everybody really wants to use their talents, and if they're a believer, they want to use them to serve God. They want to use them to, further the kingdom. And I think sometimes it just takes tapping into how can I do that? They just don't really think about it, or they think. I mean, I have friends that are retired, and sometimes they just kind of check out of life, and they think, well, I've done that. I don't really need to serve anymore. I'll just kind of go play golf and enjoy life, and they just maybe don't see that need. But I think as believers, God's called us to help other people. That's what He's called us to do. So
when we first started Seed Oaks, when we were planning and kind of scheming and trying to imagine what a ministry of professionals in the church looks like, we really honed in on that recently retired professional. Because they're the professional that has 30 plus years of expertise.
Right.
They're usually financially fairly well off, or had made some planning, and they have space with time.
Right.
Why do you believe it may be challenging, or what needs sometimes to happen to spark a recently retired professional to kind of get back into the game, or stay in the game but shift gears where maybe more of a faith initiative, church-based initiative?
Right. That's a very good question, Nathan. I don't really know. I mean, I just think hearing what, for example, Seed to Oaks does, I think hearing the opportunities that you all provide people. I mean, my husband's a good example. He's a former plant manager, manufacturing plant, so he would be an awesome mentor with the Job One program. And I think more and more, I see sometimes people that just aren't sure they want to make a commitment. How much is the time commitment?
Yes.
But I think they're a little bit worried about that. But I think if they realize, I mean, I was just talking to Nikki about she could really use somebody to come in for 2 hours and just do interview training or things like that. So I think there's opportunities out there that maybe don't entail 20 hours a week or even 3 hours a week, but just opportunities that they could show you use their gifts and help programs that you all are doing. So
yeah, it's neat with the Job One program because we're training individuals to succeed in interview skills, right? And so one of the roles is just to do mock interviews, and I'm always blessed when I have the opportunity to do them. I learn about somebody new, but I'm able to use these skills. And inside the pews we have doctors and we have dentists, we have business professionals, and the dream is if I need a job and I don't know where to go, I can go to the church on my street corner, because in that church are people who have jobs and can help me get a job. That doesn't mean they're all business owners or they're all managers, but if you've got a job and you've held your job, then you're qualified to help somebody else get a job and keep the job. You've got this baseline set of very, very valuable skills that if we could leverage it in relationship with somebody who needs a job, and the pressure's off.
That's right. And I think sometimes people just need a hand up. They just need a friend, somebody that will listen to their story, somebody that will maybe talk about some resources that they've used in their life that they could share with this person who's starting a new job. So I just think it just takes something, and I'm not sure exactly what that is, Nathan, but something to kind of spur people on. And I think it's, in my opinion, it's hearing about what you all are doing. It's seeing the work that you're doing. Reading about, the successes you've had in a variety of areas. And I think people just really want to help. Sometimes they just don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I've never met a professional who says, I don't want to do something. Everyone wants to do something. There's something deep in our hearts that says, I want to contribute. I want to make an advancement, some sort of value. There's value. And same with the pastors. I have never met a pastor who says, I don't want to make a difference in my neighborhood. I've never met a pastor who says, I don't want to mobilize my people for the good of the community. The question always remains, well, how do I do that? And then what do I do? Let's talk just a minute about mentors, because we've all had somebody who's come alongside of us.
Right.
One of our recent success stories was Nick. Nick came through a recommendation at one of our church partners. He hadn't had a job in 12 years. He had a criminal history. He just needed somebody like Nikki Walker and his mentor just to walk alongside him and to encourage him. He wanted a job. He didn't know where to go or how to get a job. And 3 months in the process, he landed a okay job, not quite livable wage, $12.50 an hour, but he stayed at it. And now, come January, he's being promoted to a $50,000 salary position.
Yeah. Wow, that's great.
Part of that was because he had somebody to encourage him to continue to speak words of hope. Tell us, have you had a mentor like that? What's that like for you?
I did have a mentor early on in my career. It was another financial advisor at my firm. It was a woman, and she just, was there to talk to, really, and, recommended some things, got me into networking, some things that I wasn't doing maybe, and made a huge difference, really. And so we've got a couple younger brokers in our office now, and so I try to do the same for them, because I think people are hesitant to ask for help sometimes, so sometimes I think we have to, just step out a little bit, and just tell them that we'll be there, I mean, it doesn't require that much, but I think your program, I'm sure there's some stipulations on how much time you want the mentor to spend with them, but I think just having that contact and somebody they can call and somebody they can, share their successes with, because a lot of people, I'm sure, coming out of these programs don't have parent support, they don't have family support, so.
Yeah, part of me says or thinks, I look back on my life and the mentors I've had in my life, and then I look at being a mentor and I get freaked out. Yeah. All of a sudden I get anxious, but when what eases my anxiety is like, no, I've been mentored. It's not rocket science. That means I'm available, I listen, I speak words of hope and encouragement, kind of share what I've learned along the way, and that's all it is. But for some reason, when you enter into a program or you're asked to mentor, a lot of fear comes up. I don't know how to do that, but but we do. You're doing exactly what your mentor did for you, for now multiple people in your firm. The mystery is oftentimes I don't know what to do if I'm asked to mentor in a program or somebody I don't know. But when we think about how we've been mentored, because every one of us has been mentored by somebody who listens to us, encourages us, shares their life lessons or some of the principles they've lived by that has allowed them to succeed. It kind of takes some of the mystery and the anxiety and the fear of like, maybe I don't want to do that, just kind of goes away.
I agree. I think that's true. I mean, I think it's really not that hard. People try to make it harder than it probably is, But I think, I'm sure with your program here, they, have guidelines, so you give people training, so it's not that you're just thrown out there cold and here's this person and, help them with this new job they have and support them. I'm sure there's, training that you all give, but it's, again, I don't think it's that hard. I think it's just being there for somebody, where they can email you or call you perhaps and just ask questions, or a lot of times they're probably in a new situation they've never been in. Totally. How do I handle that?
Yeah, so the mentors have a mentor at Seed Oaks in Job 1, and so we have people who have gone before, who have mentored people before. We pair mentors with mentors, and we have a program manager, Nikki Walker, and she helps navigate all those situations. So there's always a sounding board. There's always someone to give further advice. But
that's why you're successful. That's why those programs are successful, I think.
Yeah, and it isn't rocket science. Now, I don't know if I would say it's easy, but it is straightforward. And it's relational, because relationships change lives.
Exactly.
what kind of encouragement would you share maybe with the pastor? A lot of pastors that we're working with are sometimes imaginatively like gridlocked, but how would you encourage a pastor to maybe engage the professionals in the pews?
Wow, that's a good question. I think maybe if they just had maybe a little bit of training, or if somebody like you, Nathan, could come in and say, hey, these are things that we're doing and we really need help. You may have people in your congregation that could do this, and just, hold a casual meeting to see what's available. Maybe depending on the size of the church, obviously, do a survey, find out, are there people there that have skills that they want to use, and why aren't they using them? And I think, again, it just always goes back to people don't know what there is out there to do.
Yeah.
They just need to be shown various opportunities, and then I think they'll step forward. A lot of people will.
Sometimes I have found that there's hesitation on behalf of the professional to leverage their expertise because they do it all week long. I mean, 40, 50 hours a week, especially in the social sector among those who've been trained in those relationally demanding jobs. And then you have others who are more in maybe the financial realms or the managerial realms, a little hesitant to leverage those. Could you speak to some of that hesitation?
Well, I think it's just maybe a little bit of burnout.
Burnout, totally.
Or they're just tired, like you say. They've worked all week. They maybe have a family at home. They just don't know if they can give more. So if it was something that wasn't too time-consuming or too taxing, but they could see a real benefit to it, I think there'd be an interest.
I too find that is true, making it short and concise and measurable without too much burden, which means that the church needs to bring some infrastructure to some of the efforts, with a clear start and a clear end.
Exactly, right.
So it doesn't feel overwhelming. But then I find that what I love about the church is the professional can integrate that faith and vocation in a way that's really unique, that a lot of people don't have the freedom to in their workplace.
In the workplace, exactly.
And when the professional and the pastors and the members of the church experience that freedom of integration for the first time and caring for vulnerable people in the neighborhood, it's a powerful mix that really excites the membership of the church and allows the kingdom to flourish.
Exactly. I mean, to me, it would be an opportunity for a church that's sort of a dead church. I mean, we've talked a little bit earlier about a couple churches maybe here in town that are down to 50 or 100 members. And, for some reason, people are not going to that church. Either they're not being spiritually fed, or maybe they're not being given opportunities to use their talents, So, I mean, I can see where the programs that Seed to Oaks offers can be a huge help to a small church who maybe is struggling to try to stay afloat.
Yeah, it's cool. We're working with one of the associations here, and we're working now with three churches, and we've developed adjusted our neighborhood 360 assessment to be accessible to help revitalize churches
that
are under 75 members who are looking for the next best step, or where does that neighborhood imagine them stepping in. Because churches can get out of touch, and neighborhoods do shift and change, and sometimes it's hard to keep up.
I mean, a lot of neighborhoods, I think, look at a church there and they think, wonder what they do there. I never see anybody there, or, how come they don't reach out to us? So that's exactly what the neighborhood assessments are doing. They're going out and talking to these people. What are your needs? What do you want from the church? How can we help you? So
it's a beautiful thing when the church says yes to the neighborhood's yes. So when the neighborhood says, yeah, we would love for you to do this for us in this neighborhood, and when the church says yes to the neighborhood's yes,
that's perfect. Yeah, that's a perfect
it's a beautiful
match.
opportunity.
That's true. That really is.
Well, do you have a favorite story so far from Seed Oaks?
Oh gosh, let me think, Nathan. I don't know. I guess I just really love all the different facets of what you're doing. I love the stories about Job 1 and the people that have been placed in jobs that are coming out of the prison system. in sustainable, good jobs. I love the Oaks Academy. I got to visit that a couple summers
you
ago,
did,
and
yeah.
just saw the difference it was making for those kids and the excitement they had, and then the change in their test scores that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So I haven't gotten to experience the health clinic. I'd like to help out with one of those sometime. And the assessments, I wish I went to a church that could use that. Unfortunately, I go to a really big church, so I don't know that they would use that tool, but I think it's an awesome tool.
Yeah.
So I just love all the work that you're doing and all the excitement that there is here. And I just, I think it's just a great, great organization that is going to grow and make a difference in the city of Louisville.
I do too. The metaphor I'm currently kind of stuck on is imagining the church like a ship. And the safest place for that ship is in the harbor. But that's not why ships are built. Ships are built for adventure in the sea. And there's unknown, and there's ambiguity maybe out there on what may happen. But when the church is bold and is courageous and says, we're going to leverage what we've got, and we're going to meet the needs of the community around us, there's a whole adventure waiting for us. And that's what I love about the Seed Oaks kind of metaphor. It comes from Isaiah 61. It's the justice chapter in the Old Testament, where basically when the church loves mercy and does justice, they're planted by the Lord for the display of His glory. They become known as oaks of righteousness. There's this growth and this maturation and this expansiveness of change and possibility that happens, whether it's an oak tree or it's a church navigating uncharted seas. I think that's a beautiful picture of what Jesus does for us when we trust Him.
I totally agree. I just think there's so many needs in our neighborhood, in our city, and to be able to have a faith-based organization that can help meet those needs, I think that's what God wants us to do. So I just think Seed to Oaks is planted at the perfect time, I think.
Well, that's a perfect time to end this podcast. I couldn't have done it more. Thank you, Kathy Boyer, for coming. Thank you for sharing your heart and what you see. And we look forward to continuing our journey.
Thank you so much, Nathan. I look forward to seeing what Seed to Oaks is going to do in our city in the months and the years to come. So I just am excited to be a part of it. And thank you for letting me come today.
And thanks for your support.
You're quite welcome.